basically if children are not choosing to do things and feel that ownership, then they lose self-confidence. And it goes all the way up into school. I'm not here to like debate our school system or anything like that, but just to, give a perspective and a lens into this. And a mentor of mine turned me on to a book by Rick Warren called The Purpose-Driven Life. And I'm a Roman Catholic man of faith. And that book was the exact thing I needed at the right time. And I think that's really the importance of mentors, because our bills and everything was paid with the Air Force. And so that step out was very, very nerve-wracking to get to. And even as an engineer, I'm relatively type A, very driven, like to go. If my schedule isn't, optimized, I feel like I'm wasting time.
When you're facing a big change in your life, how does that make you feel? For some people, that might feel exciting. They look forward to the adventure. For other people, big changes can be scary. For those who are career military personnel, the change from active duty back to a civilian life can be terrifying. If you've ever found yourself in a place where you're facing a big change and it's felt scary, you're going to love the conversation today with Anthony Rocky Mirabile. Anthony knows what that feels like. After a career in the U.S. Air Force, he's making a change. He's transitioning to becoming a full-time real estate investor, and he's acquiring businesses. When you're facing a big change, you can do that with courage, with enthusiasm, and with hope for the future. And I think that's what you're going to hear from this conversation with Rocky Mirabile. Rocky, you are a graduate of the Air Force Flight Test School. So in my mind, I think test pilot. And then I find out you're not even a pilot. So Rocky, I need some explanation here on how in the world the Air Force can throw a guy out there that graduates from the flight test school and they're not a pilot.
Yeah, I love this question. I love representing the engineers in the world. When you're doing tests, there's a lot of technical aspects to new technology. And so the Air Force, in its infinite wisdom, which it does make a lot of really good decisions, puts pilots and engineers together to go through a year, fly 38 different aircraft together, come up with test plans, figure out how to analyze data, collect the data efficiently because testing is expensive, and then make decisions. When you're making large decisions, for the national security, they're important. And so putting engineers and pilots together is a really nice blend. So the pilots get to learn to speak engineer, and the engineers get to fly a lot of stick time and really pilot. So I had a love for aviation just kind of in general. I never really got on the pilot track, but ever since I've been in the Air Force and I knew this was an option, I had my sights set on this because I could stay technical and then still get operational time as a pilot. So it was an awesome blend for me.
Okay, so right now I'm a little bit even more upset because you just told me that you don't even have to become a pilot and you get to go fly military jets. So for all the guys out there that are in flight school right now, killing themselves or working their way through the Air Force, they did it the wrong way.
Yeah, it's a little niche. It's hard to do, but it's a really, really nice niche in the Air Force.
Okay, so with the 38 different aircraft that you've flown, now this might be hard. Are there ones that stand out in your mind as just being a great experience, or is it just everything that you get to fly is just awesome?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple here. So there's curriculum aircraft where, you fly those most of the time and the instructors try to teach you something with those airplanes. They're mainly a C-12, a T-38, and an F-16. I was in an F-16 data group for flying qualities and performance. And I really got the most time in the Viper while I was at test pilot school. And I had a really awesome group of fighter pilots to fly with. So we just had a blast. They gave me so much stick time. Love those guys. And I did all the data analysis, so they were happy as well. So I got a lot of time in the Viper, and I really, really love that aircraft. And then probably the coolest and nostalgic one was flying a P-51 down at Eglin Air Force Base, the Emerald Coast, crystal blue water. We got to run gun patterns. It was just like one of those flights you're like, can we do more? Can I get more out? Like, I don't want to turn around yet. It was amazing.
So all I need to do is become an engineer and I can fly a P-51.
You can, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I'm willing to go through that, Anthony. I think I'd rather stick to the pilot track that I'm on. Transitioning a little bit, Anthony, you are facing actually a transition out of the Air Force. You've been career in the Air Force. And when I talked to you about this period of your life, you used a really interesting term. You said that you were really working hard to identify your post-military purpose, and that there seemed to be kind of like a void in purpose. How are you doing now with that decision and the transition? And have you made any discoveries about what your purpose is going to be?
Yeah, this is a great time for me to be able to answer this, because I think if you would have asked me about a month ago or even before that, there was a lot of journaling, a lot of reading, a lot of introspection, conversations with mentors to help me figure this out. When you're serving, as I have in the Air Force for 13 years, it takes a really big part of you and a big part of your family. And I don't think you realize that until you start this separation process. And in going through that, I felt that void. And a mentor of mine turned me on to a book by Rick Warren called The Purpose Driven Life. And I'm a Roman Catholic man of faith. And that book was the exact thing I needed at the right time. And I think that's really the importance of mentors. This mentor was Lynn Lauder. He runs a nonprofit called Veteran Business Project. And it really helped me just go internal about what do I want to do, what's happened to me in the past, what do I want to bless people with in the future. And that kind of leads to some family ties in business, entrepreneurship. I've already built, a foundation of knowledge in investing through real estate, and it's catapulted me to want to buy businesses and bless people and communities.
Anthony, when you first started, and this might be kind of hard to identify a specific time, but as you knew that your time in the military was going to come to an end, what were some of the emotions that you were feeling around that void? Was it fear? Was it an anxious feeling? I have a son-in-law who's in the Air Force, and we have very frequent conversations around what does life look like right now, because it's pretty well defined. You put on the uniform, you go to work, you do your job, you know what the checklist is to have a successful day, and then you take it off and you come home. But he's felt, I think, some trepidation around stepping out of that because there's a lot less structure. And as you faced, identifying a really solid purpose that isn't, I'm going to wake up, put on the uniform, and protect the Constitution of the United States. So what were some of those feelings that you experienced? And the second question to that would be, do you feel like that's because as men, especially, maybe women do this too, I don't know, is that we become what we do rather than becoming who we are and then just doing different things that are in alignment with who we are?
Yeah, I think that's a deep question, and one that, for me as a father of two young boys, a 4 and a 3-year-old, and we still are a single income family. Real estate has allowed my wife to raise our kids, which is what we wanted, in a pretty distracted world, as I'd call it. I want my wife rocking the cradle, not really someone else. And so I felt the fear of, how am I going to provide? for the family because we were stable with Air Force income. I was making asymmetric bets in investments, in crypto and real estate on the side. And so that taught me a little bit of those investment chops. But it felt very stable, right? Because our bills and everything was paid with the Air Force. And so that step out was very, very nerve wracking to get to. And even as an engineer, I'm relatively type A, very driven, like to go. If my schedule isn't, optimized, I feel like I'm wasting time. And so I took a counterintuitive approach after talking to many folks to just slow down, where I blocked the first 4 hours of my day, and I had to get up extra early so I didn't feel like I was wasting the day, but I blocked the first 4 hours of my day for a few months where I would just read and write and reflect. And that was the slowest I've ever been in my entire life, but it really helped me in this transition because now I feel confident in what I'm trying to do. It did take some time to do that. It took me about 3 months to really slow down and get clear, crystal clear on what I would like to do next. And this still may not be it, right? I may drive into it and we may pivot, but today I feel ultimate conviction in going and doing this.
What did you learn about yourself in those quiet 4 hours, the first thing in the morning?
Man, you learn a lot about yourself, your fears, things you do well, things you don't do well. You analyze decisions. The brain's really an amazing thing when you just sit there in quiet. It's kind of funny. Some of my favorite messages were to my mother. Telling my mom she was like a 1 in a million mother doing some of the things she did while building a career and raising 4 kids, during some challenging times as every family goes through. But you don't always see those unless you take the time to sit back and reflect. And I just feel so appreciative to have the time to do that. And I really got to do it on this program called Skill Bridge. So DoD, if anyone out there from DoD is listening to this, keep the Skill Bridge program. It allows service members who are separating or retiring to transition. So up to 6 months, you have to work it out with your unit. You have to find a transition partner that you can work with. And if you can find those win-wins, you can really structure some time to help you transition.
Oh, that's incredible. Rocky, you said that you made asymmetric bets in crypto and in real estate. Those are 2 very different asset classes. So for those that may not know, what is an asymmetric bet? Question number 1. Question number 2, why those 2 asset classes, and what have you learned as you've made those asymmetric bets?
Yeah, I'll define asymmetric in terms of input output. So asymmetric, if you put a little bit in and you get a lot out, I'm thinking on the gain side, right? Like that's an asymmetric win. If you put a lot in and get a little out, that's not necessarily an asymmetric win.
It's not the way you want to go.
Yeah, from an investment standpoint. So I really love technology as an engineer. I'm a double E and overeducated with 2 master's degrees, and I was mining crypto when I had subsidized electricity. So I've always just followed it. And I've just seen the trend of the liquidity cycle that goes into crypto. Yes, there's meme coins and other things out there, and this is not investment advice, but I do think there is something to, what is going on in that space, given the geopolitical nature, fiat currencies and other. And so I've made small bets. I'm not risking a lot, but I'm making small bets. And then in real estate is really where I'm doing a lot of investment, mainly in the multifamily space, and that's some active and some passive.
So I want to really dive into your real estate experience. I talked about my son-in-law, very interested in beginning real estate investing, but that's a different skill set than being in the Air Force. So tell me about how you got into it and how did you overcome the fear of taking the first step? Because imagine as an engineer, you're fairly analytical. And so you probably do a good job of really analyzing a deal, but sometimes that can go to the extreme where you just analyze forever and never take action.
Alan, you're spot on. I was there for over 6 months, listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. I had a 40-minute commute, where I was listening to podcasts, one down, one back, and just like consuming. And I zoomed out after about 6 months, and I was like, I am just consuming, right? I know a lot more now about this, but I haven't done anything. And it just so happened my partner, Dean Valentini, who is also a classmate of mine at Test Pilot School, we actually sat next to each other. He was doing the same thing. And this was after we graduated Test Pilot School. Like in parallel tracks, we were both doing this, like looking at real estate and investing. And he had already bought a property that he lived, primary residence in Florida, and then he moved and used it as a rental. So he had a little more experience. But we just said, let's buy one property together. Let's just take the risk together. And so it took a partner to get us there. I think for both of us, we decided that in December of 2019, and we bought our first property on 28 February 2020, which is also the birth of my first son. We closed at the hospital, which
Wow.
is, a confluence of things. I'm actually really proud of that now, because that property is going to be something eventually we'll be able to pass down, to my kids and see something like that. So kind of a cool story there.
How did your wife feel about the fact that you were closing on a real estate deal while you were having your first child?
I think these are all the things that I look back now, and it's like there's so many fears on, like, ideally when we got under contract the 30 days, it should have been just fine. He came early, and so like that's where we were. But it actually was very low stress. A mobile notary showed up with all the paperwork. She said, I will wait here till you're ready. And we had family in town in LA. They lived there, and they came to see my wife for a little bit. And I stepped out for about an hour and signed the papers. And then obviously was there for the born of my firstborn child, and supported my wife. So, now it's kind of a cool story.
So you really, in that hospital, had the birth of two different things, your family and also a future in real estate. So how long ago was that?
Yeah, so it was 2020, right before COVID, in February 28th. We bought basically 3 properties in a row within the span of about a year. We went from 0 to, and these were fourplex duplex, in the Dayton, Ohio area, which is where I live now. And I knew I was going to end up. And so we bought them from a distance, which long distance real estate investing is possible. There's challenges to it. I think it forces you to have some really good process, procedure, think ahead. But then I think I do advocate being local now, the ability to like see your properties more when you're in those early phases.
So you bought your first property 4 years ago, and tell me where you're at today.
Yeah, so I guess total where I've bought with a partner where we own and operate our own. We've bought some on my own between my wife and I, and then now I've partnered with another group that's local here in Cincinnati. And I don't really care about the unit count, but if that's what's there, it's up to 109 units right now that I'm either owning and operating, passive investor, or my wife and I own.
Rocky, looking back at yourself 4 years ago, would you ever have imagined the words, I own 109 units of real estate, coming out of your mouth?
No. Yeah. No way. And I would even say too, it's more impressive to me at this point with the challenges the market has gone through, right? In late 2022 and 2023, it's been a tough market for real estate, just in general with the cost of capital. And so, I'm really proud of that progress. And I think my original path was to grow and scale in real estate. But I think the market, becoming aware of, opportunities to buy businesses, and doing some of that introspection really turned me on to the opportunity to buy businesses.
And I want to talk about that, but I need to sit in this real estate journey for just a little bit, because I talk to people all the time, almost every day, that are interested in investing in real estate, not sure where to get started, don't think they make enough money to do it. But you've been active duty military, so you're not making millions of dollars a year. You're a single family income, so you're the sole support. So probably not a lot of extra cash to go into these deals. But in 4 years, you've gone to over 100 units in real estate. Is there any excuse that anyone else should have for not getting started?
Yeah, I think there's, going back to the analysis paralysis thing you were touching on before. Like you may have a goal, you may not know how to get there, but you will learn more of the path the more steps you take. And so there was an episode on the Bigger Pockets. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he said vacuum the truck, and that one's really stuck with me. And it was all about him like selling his truck, but like he didn't take the steps to do it. And like the first step was to vacuum the truck, and then take a photo of the truck, and then post it, right? And so you can break everything down to just some steps to lower the action threshold. And for folks trying to get involved, I think education's key. The information's out there. That's on you. Go put the time and effort in to understand what's going on and where your unique skill set is. And then partnerships are huge. Like, I wouldn't have been anywhere close. Like, the high number of unit count is through partnerships, to be honest. And you really learn a lot through those partners. And if you're willing to add value, everybody's looking for good partners. So
What is the value that you add to those partnerships? Because I think that is important. I think one of the most important personal discoveries I've had in the last 4 or 5 years is what my superpower is, what value I bring to any situation. So what is your superpower? What's the value that you add to these partnerships that someone would be willing to say, yeah, I'll give up some ownership because I want Rocky to be involved?
yeah, it's really been on the technology side. So like the group I'm partnered with, they do in-house property management. That is like their superpower. As many units as they have, they're controlling cost in a challenging market. They're delivering to residents. They're delivering to investors. And I really think they're in a great position to grow. And I just started helping them really at no cost. Like, there was no cost. I was just adding value because I really liked the way they operated. Let's feel it out. And I helped streamline and automate, and add some technology into what they were doing, which made things really efficient for their capital raiser. And now it's just kind of blossomed from there.
I think you hit on a really important point right there, is if you can learn how to show up and how to give in any situation, you can get just about anything that you want in life. But it seems almost counterintuitive. But I really feel like a superpower is trying to figure out how much can you give to other people, and then just watching what happens around you as the world responds. I don't know if I can even explain. It seems like magic, but as I've learned that lesson, my world has expanded exponentially. And it's not because I've been trying to get more, it's just I've been trying to give more. So I love that you shared that you were just doing some work for free. Maybe in the back of your mind you had some kind of an expectation there, but you still showed up and brought what you had and did the work that you could do, and look where that's led.
Yeah.
So you talked about business acquisition. So I would love to know what's turned you on to business acquisition, and why do you feel so passionate about that? Because looking at your story to this point, I would say, yeah, you figured out the real estate game, zone in, hit that hard, don't get distracted. But you're really looking at business acquisition right now, and I would love to know why.
Yeah, it was kind of an intersection of a few things. I did the math on, our portfolio that we own and operate ourselves, on like what it takes to get a full-time maintenance guy right, to get a leasing agent. And I was like, wow, in this tough market, as hard as we're working our pipeline, we need about 80, 85 units, right? And at the time we were at 12. And so I was like, this is a big lift in the market. And this was as cost of capital is rising, and I'm just looking at the macro trends. As I was doing that, I was just kind of surveying other investment opportunities, and I stumbled on private equity. And then I stumbled on a book called Buy Then Build by Walker Dybel. And I read that. I don't really read too many books like cover to cover, but that book, I just could not put it down. I was up until 3 or 4 in the morning, just like cranking through this book. And it highlighted a trend that was happening to my family, and I hadn't known it or realized it. So there's this trend in family businesses where a generation will earn it, the next generation that it passes to will burn it, the third generation is sitting there watching, right, and they yearn for it. And so that's the natural cycle that tends to happen with family enterprises. The baby boomers are the largest generation in history, and they own the most businesses. And so those businesses have to do something to transition. And there's this really interesting trend where a lot of folks in my millennial generation, or even a generation up above or below, don't want to run a plumbing company, right, or an electric company, or real estate aligned type businesses, or something where you really got to grit your teeth a little bit. But they're amazing cash flowing businesses if you're willing to work. And what I saw is an opportunity to buy a business, be a good leader, which the Air Force taught me to do, take care of people, put systems and processes in place, and you could be very well rewarded. And that solved a cash flow problem for me from day one, which real estate, struggles to do at times with certain assets, especially multifamily where we were at. When I'm looking at multiple partners, like we can't take from the asset. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's how I got onto business buying. And then I went down every rabbit hole there was to learn about this topic, talk to everybody about it. Any business I walked in that, just looked reasonable, like a tool rental company when I was renting something for real estate. I would just kind of ask, like, are you the owner? This is a great shop, and just start to like really build my mind map in my local area of this trend. And I started to see it. I started to see older owners all over the place that were looking for a way to get out of their business. So that was the validation I needed.
That's awesome. I think true to your education and your nature, I love seeing the methodical approach that you're taking. You educate yourself, and then you're taking small action, as small as, are you the owner of this shop? But that, I think, allows you to build some confidence in that this isn't that big a step. It's just a series of small steps. And that as long as you take those small steps, you're eventually going to get to the top and look down and go, wow, okay, I did that. And what's the next mountain to climb? How's the business acquisition going for you? You've been in the educate, take small steps. Where is that leading you?
Yeah, I'll share. I'd say we've been seriously working a pipeline since January of this year, 2024. So a little over 6 months. It is grueling. There's a lot of businesses to look through. There's a lot of things to sort through. We've mainly been on market just because of our timeline, and you can close a business on market faster than off market. We've taken a sniper rifle approach to off market, where if we see something we really like, let's try to get direct to the owner with like a personal letter or in person. And some of those have worked out and gotten to LOI, and then we find something we don't like, and we walk away gracefully. But I'd say my thesis is you have to look at about 100. You have to put 10 offers in, and then maybe you close one. I think those are like some rough numbers I'm telling folks right now just based on metrics we track. And the 100 has to be in your buy box, not just 100 random businesses. This is like qualified leads. And so you have to look at even more than just the 100. So it is pretty grueling. And I'd say the technology and systems don't really support the brokers right now. They're just getting inundated with people clicking on biz buy sell and other. And so the follow-up is extremely key. And so if you're willing to do that, I think you can get to a lot of owners. And similar to the learn, and take some steps, conversations with owners are just so eye-opening. When you start asking the right questions and get an awareness from an owner that's built a beautiful business for 30 years and all they're trying to do is retire. And so if you can present yourself in a way that, hey, I can take your business and transition it to the next generation and help you retire, there's just like a win-win there that really sounds good.
And that hits directly on what we just talked about, where if you're showing up, giving them a solution to the problem that they have, not showing up with what can I get out of this transaction, then that's going to lead to the opportunity and to the win. I don't know if it was something I read, but I'm sure it was like you. I read a lot that, the quickest way to wealth, to happiness, to whatever it is you're wanting to achieve is to give that thing to someone else. And so when you're talking about this baby boomer generation that wants to retire, if you can show up and provide a roadmap to the wealth that they desire to be able to retire, then you can get that for yourself, right? Because ultimately you desire the same thing. You're not buying the business because you just want to buy a business. You're buying it because you have a vision for your family. At some point, you want to have the wealth to be able to have freedom to do what you want.
Yeah, that's spot on. And there's kind of this interesting thing that happens when you talk to some owners, especially ones that are family focused. And I have the 2 kids as well, and so I can speak family from being a young father. And you start to realize that some of them may see themselves in you when you're at the table making an offer and talking to them about the business. And I've just gotten some amazing advice from a conversation with an owner. Like it's incredible, like this network of people that own these businesses. So
that's fantastic. Rocky, what's your biggest concern for the future, for your future, and as you make this move into acquiring businesses? What scares you?
yeah, we're gonna finance via a small business administration loan. So there's going to be a personal guarantee on the line. We're structuring transactions with terms such that we'll be as insulated as possible, but you never know, and you do have to take that risk and take that chance on yourself. I think the biggest thing that I'm concerned about right now, and it is just being an intentional father as I try to go do this entrepreneurial journey. Right? You hear from a lot of folks that are farther on the journey. It's like I'd rather have that time with the kids, and some of that is the impetus for me going out and being an owner, so I can have that time. But like all things, you have to be intentional about how you spend that time. And so I think there's going to be a point where I could grow the business more, I could do more things, but I want that time and freedom, with my family. So I think that's the biggest thing that I worry about. I'm not as concerned about growing a business or anything like that. I think I feel confident enough in what I've done and my commitment level. Gratefully, the Air Force has done that to me. I mean, I worked insane hours for no additional pay. And so to work insane hours and get more pay sounds just fine.
I hate to break it to you, but it's probably insane hours and no additional pay. It doesn't
okay.
really
I'm
change.
used to it.
Rocky, what has been the influence or impact of your family board meetings on these decisions and your journey from military to real estate, now to business. How, for anyone who isn't familiar with what a family board meeting is, I'd love for you to describe what that looks like, but then also how has that what has that experience been for your family?
Yeah, this is something that I really cherish. And we started when my oldest Thomas was 2.5, when he could start communicating, some things that he likes to do. And a family board meeting, I'll give a shout out to Jim Shields. He wrote the book, The Family Board Meeting. It allows you to just disconnect from, again, this distracted world, right? And you have to somehow be intentional about this time and, getting away from technology to be present. And all it is you speak to your child at whatever age, and you be intentional about, on this day on the calendar, we're going to go do something that you get to choose. An activity, get something to eat, sit and reflect, and there's no phone. It's on do not disturb. It's only capturing a photo or a video of something fun. And I was kind of like, should we start it this young? Like at 2.5, what's going to happen? But both my sons talk about their family board meeting, like the board meeting. And we walked away from both of those with one or two things they'd love to work on for the year. And it's just an annual thing for now while they're young. But I'd like to increase the frequency as they get older. But I mean, it's amazing. They talk about it. My oldest, the first one really latches in my mind because I was like, is he going to remember any of this? Like his two things were take care of Bubba, his younger brother, because we're really big with siblings. They're 15 months apart. Them being close and playing together is important to us. And so take care of Bubba and have fun. And he still says it today. It's crazy. So I think that intentional and present time is priceless.
I love that you're doing that, and honestly wish that I had had that kind of insider understanding when I began my entrepreneurial journey, because I didn't. I was trying to build the business so I could spend more time with the family, and it actually had the opposite effect. I was building the business, but I wasn't spending more time with my family. And I always love to see entrepreneurs who have already learned that lesson and are being really intentional about it, because it does make a huge difference. My dad taught me growing up to remember the little things, and he believed that the little things were the most important things. What are some of the little things that you're trying to teach your boys and that you feel are the big things that you want them to learn or to understand through this journey of life?
I could say a lot, but the number one thing that jumps out to me is self-confidence and being self-driven. I've been reading a lot about, neuroscientists are publishing a lot of things studying the brain right now and in development with children. And choice is a big one. And basically, if children are not choosing to do things and feel that ownership, then they lose self-confidence. And it goes all the way up into school. I'm not here to like debate our school system or anything like that, but just to, give a perspective and a lens into this. It's, we ask kids to sit down and try to learn, and we're really forcing, and then they come home and we have to force them to do homework. And it's just a lot of force, put. And so I think a lot of kids don't feel they have the choice to do something they want to do, which is where a lot of passion and great things come from. And, you start learning that later in life when you have a career and you do something you're passionate about and you go all in. And so one thing I'm really focused on with both of our boys is let them choose, even if it's silly. Does it matter that they dress weird and maybe not like the Big Daddy movie, but like, or 50 packets of ketchup, right? But like, give them guardrails, but still allow them to choose. And I think they'll build self-confidence, and it'll give them an opportunity to combat some of these other challenging things we're seeing with kids today, with low confidence and being affected by outside influences.
I love that. Tell me about your annual retreats with your wife, and what has that done for your marriage, for your business, and for your family?
Yeah, that one is a coveted one. You know, a lot of folks with kids know it's hard to get away. Thankfully, we're near family, and so we have, coffee dates and things like that. But to be able to lock in and talk everything under the sun about the family, how we're each doing, where we're at with finances, where we're at with goals, personal health, the kids. It's great. We joined a mastermind, Brandon Turner's the Better Life Tribe, and he had a amazing deal for spouses where if you joined initially, the spouse came for free, and so that was just a no brainer. And so our last one was in Vegas, and we got to go to that conference, and it's just basically like a workshop. Before that, I was kind of bootstrapping it with other resources to try to plan it, and it went okay, but I would say it was very helpful to have a little bit more of a guide on some of those things. So
You've talked about mentorship. Now you're talking about a networking group. What has the impact of mentors and networking had on your professional and personal development?
it unlocks what's possible. Um, when you get around people that are doing what you want to do, you will naturally gravitate that way. If you commit, and you show up to calls or you interact in the community with people, um, there's a financial cost to that. I recognize that. But the way I look at it is that's an investment in me, and the ROI on that is infinite, right? So I go get in that community and I interact with people and I learn, I retain that for life. And so the ROI is infinite.
That's awesome. Early on in our conversation, you mentioned the Veteran Business Project. I've never heard of that before. Will you tell us about what that organization is and what they do?
Yeah, it's a great deal for veterans. They are helping veterans buy businesses. So transition out of service, or if you're already out of the service and you're a veteran or a military spouse, you have access to their resources. So they have M&A advisors, they have relationships with lenders and capital. They have coaching. If this is something you're interested in, they can pair you with a mentor. I am super passionate about this organization. I'm currently wrapping up my skill bridge with them, and I'm going to continue in some capacity helping them out because I think it's very, very valuable. And for veterans, there's I don't quite know all the stats, but I'll just give you the general idea. After World War II, the majority of veterans went and became business owners, and they built some of these great businesses that we're seeing today. And I think there's a common thread there where people that are service oriented or have been through some of those things to take over businesses um, could be a really great opportunity for the nation.
That's incredible. I love that. If there is a service member right now listening or a vet, where do they find information on that? Because I think that could be a huge resource for so many.
Yeah, veteranbusinessproject.org. LinkedIn is probably where most of the social media happens today. It's a small team, but we will be growing pretty fast here. So you'll see more from us. Or you can reach out to me directly and I'll connect you.
That's incredible. Rocky, it sounds like you've got the next phase of life figured out. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's the vision for your future?
10 years, that's like right in between where I typically think. So I'll stretch it a little. I think I'd love to have a family of companies um, that are doing well, and I'm taking care of the team. I'd also like to be in a position where I'm giving back in a really big capacity. I don't know if that's nonprofit. I don't know if that's money and time, serving others in the community. I think building strong communities is just something I'm all about. Yeah.
Who's the person that you're most qualified to help today?
That's a great question. I would say a veteran that is looking to transition, mainly because that's what I'm going through right now. And I think most veterans look at the vanilla options that are out there. So whatever I do in the military, I will just go do that in the civilian sector. And unless someone breaks your brain and shows you there's other options, I think you're missing an opportunity in the transition. And so they may figure that out later. And so if I could help someone just open the aperture now, I would love to do that.
Rocky, that's incredible. There are thousands or maybe tens of thousands that need exactly that kind of assistance. And I love your heart and your desire to do that. If there's somebody that listens to this that wants to connect with you, how do they do that?
I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, probably the most social media wise. That's probably the best way.
Fantastic. What, off the top of your head, your handles there, we can certainly link in the show notes, but I'd love to give you the chance to provide that audibly too, if you have it.
Yeah, LinkedIn, you'll find me just my name, and then on Instagram, Up the Ante too. Back when you made silly handles, I haven't changed mine.
That's fantastic. Rocky, thank you for taking a portion of your day today and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience. I've loved our conversation and look forward to future connection and collaboration that I'm sure we'll have.
Alan, love the questions, love the podcast. Plain Success is awesome.
Thanks, Rocky.
Thanks.